So you're thinking about making a move to Chicago, but you don't know what information that you're receiving is accurate, what's not accurate. There's so much info out there, it's easy to get lost in the sauce. Today's video, my goal is to be breaking down the 5 things that you must know before moving to Chicago. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, thank you for being here. And if you're returning, thank you for the ongoing support. My name is Jordan Pyle. I am your go-to Chicago real estate resource. I've been selling and living downtown in the city of Chicago for the last 10 years. I've lived in multiple neighborhoods. I've learned a lot with hundreds of clients that I've helped service their buying and selling needs over the years. And I'm excited for the opportunity to be able to be your one-stop shop for all things living, working, and everything in between for Chicago. So if this has been helpful, do me a favor and like the video, comment any additional questions down below, and be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, as every week our goal is to put out 1 to 2 new videos. Today though, we're jumping into the 5 things that you must know before you move to Chicago. Let's get into it. All right, the first thing that we want to talk about before moving to Chicago is you want to understand, where do you want to live? And I know this seems like a pretty basic question, but in Chicago, there's actually over 77 different neighborhoods. And I primarily service like the north side of the city, which includes neighborhoods such as, let's just say, Old Town, Streeterville, Gold Coast, River North. Lincoln Park is my primary market. Lakeview, Bucktown, Wicker Park, etc., etc. So I just named off 7 or 8 different places there, and as you can see, there's 77 different ones. So each one is gonna come up with its own makeup of characteristics, different types of people that live there, certain people that desire a certain lifestyle, live in certain areas. So just to give you an example, maybe you like being by the lake and you like to take advantage of being active, and whether it be swimming, biking, or running, then you're probably gonna wanna be on the east side of the city. And this is somebody like myself. I fall in that category where I wanna be as close to Lake Michigan as possible. I like to run, bike, and swim daily on the lakefront, as well as many other things such as a lot of the beaches in Chicago and just a lot of the attractions. Lincoln Park, not the neighborhood, but the actual park itself, and like the zoo and all of that, where you can go and watch zoo lights. Obviously you can take your kids to the zoo, or maybe just hang out in the park and have a good time, or read a book, or do a picnic, or put a towel out and get some sun. All of those things are close to the lake, so they're gonna be on the east side of the city. Now, some of the disadvantages of that is if you're trying to basically commute every day and you need to take the expressway, then you might wanna be a little bit more west because of proximity to the Dan Ryan Expressway. So that's my first tip, is making sure you know and getting a feel for all of the different neighborhoods, and ultimately figuring out which one is gonna match your desired lifestyle the most. All right, next up, number 2 thing that you wanna consider before moving to Chicago is, are you gonna be renting or are you gonna be buying? Now, I'm gonna speak more to the buyers out there because my job is a real estate agent. I've been selling the last 10 years full-time, helped over $60 million in closed business, hundreds of clients, and one thing that I think is important is understanding how far your money will take you in different areas. For example, you might be able to buy let's just use the price point of $650,000 in Lincoln Park. It's probably gonna get you less in Lincoln Park than it will get you if you were to go a little bit more west across the expressway to Bucktown and Wicker Park. Another example might be, if you're living up in Rogers Park, which is close to the lake, that's likely gonna be an area where you can get a little bit more bang for your buck versus being in Gold Coast or Streeterville, which are both kind of the same latitude of the city, but they're more popular neighborhoods that have higher average sales prices. So understanding how far your money can take you, the best way to go about figuring this out is obviously look at your finances, look at your budgets, understand what is the monthly payment that you're gonna be comfortable paying every single month. And then once you understand that, a lot of times you might be able to be approved for more, but doesn't mean that you should spend that. So the next step would be to get introduced to a local lender. If you need a local lender, I'm more than happy to connect you with my preferred lender, Justin Lapotin with Guaranteed Rate, one of the best in the entire country. And they can basically just give you parameters based on your credit, the amount of money you have saved, your debt to income ratio, and overall what your real estate goals are. So they can talk to you about different loan products and ultimately what it's gonna take for you to actually finance a new home here in Chicago. All right, the third thing you should know before moving to Chicago is how you plan to get around the city. So what's your transportation look like? For me, I've had a car ever since I've been here for the last 10 years, but I know a ton of people, it's probably 50-50 that actually take public transit. So I think depending on what you're gonna be doing here, your line of work, your profession, where you're gonna spend your time, you're gonna have different answers to the possibility of should I have a car or not. Even though having my car has been incredibly convenient, especially in the winters here in Chicago, it also comes with a pretty hefty expense every single month. So if I were to just quickly break down what I spend on my car, granted my car is paid for, so I don't have a car expense, but let's just say it's $350 a month for a car payment. Now you're gonna spend, with gas prices being the way they are, you might spend another $200, let's just say $250 a month. So now you're sitting at $600 just between your car payment in your gas. Now you have insurance, let's say $100 a month, so now you're at $750 or whatever the number is now. It also costs me money to park my car, so I pay $200 per month to actually park my car in the garage here at my building. And you always got to take into consideration potential parking tickets if you own a vehicle here in Chicago. So very quickly you can see how this cost of owning a car can be up and potentially over $1,000 a month. So the alternatives are Uber. Uber is very friendly here in Chicago. You pretty much get an Uber anywhere. It just depends on, you know, surge and all of the different things like that. Public transportation system is incredible. I actually have barely ever taken it, but a lot of people do and they swear by it because of our nice grid system that we have in Chicago. And you have the train, which is considered the L, to be able to help people out, as well as bus lines and different things like that. So making sure you understand how you're gonna get around in the city of Chicago is the third thing that I'm gonna warn you about before you move to Chicago. All right guys, we're moving right along. We got 2 more to go. Make sure you stay to the end because the last one is the one that I wanna make sure people do not forget about, because I see time and time again, people just don't even think about this and it ends up coming and biting them in the foot. The fourth thing that you wanna consider before moving to Chicago is what is the overall cost of living? So what is the living expenses? We kind of touched on that a little bit. How much are groceries gonna cost you every time you go to the grocery store? What are your typical food and beverage prices? So for me, for example, if we're gonna go into the drinking category, I barely drink, maybe once a month. But if I do drink, I typically drink an old fashioned, different types of old fashions. I like to explore the city and kind of try out the different ones. But you're expecting for an old fashioned to be somewhere between like $15 and $20 per old fashioned. So knowing what you like to eat, knowing what you like to drink, how you like to spend your time, and what your lifestyle is ultimately going to determine how much money you're spending when you're just living and going out in the city. So really understanding what the cost of living here is. I'm going to do a full video on this later, so you can tune into that one. That video is not yet out, but it will be coming down the pipeline here in probably the next 5 to 10 videos. So look out for that one and be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications so that you catch that video when it comes. But that's your fourth thing, understanding the cost of living. All right, fifth and final, thank you for staying this long. And this is the most important one in my opinion if you're buying a home and moving to Chicago, because a lot of times people come to me and they don't give themselves enough time, which ultimately ends up in a rushed purchase or just a lot more stress and overwhelm that's needed. So when you're starting the search process before you move here, if you're planning to be in a property on X date and moved into that property, I would recommend you probably starting 4, maybe 5 months on the conservative side before that actual drop dead move-in date. And the reason is because you want to give yourself, you know, let's just say 30 to 60 days to understand all the different neighborhoods, get your financing in order, talk to your realtor about the process of what it takes to actually buy a home in Chicago. And then once you have all that established, going out and actually finding the right property that you want to make an offer on. So I like to give about 30 to 60 days for that. Sometimes it happens after seeing 2 properties and it takes 3 days. Sometimes it takes longer than that. So these are conservative estimates. But then by the time you actually negotiate and go under contract, you're looking at probably in a slower time of year. It's a seasonal market here. So like right now you might be a 45 to 75 day close, maybe 45 to 60. But conservatively, I like to say between 45 and 60 days to close on said property. So right there alone, just between the, you know, defining your wish list, starting the search process, finding that property, negotiating, going under contract, and then getting to closing, you're looking at probably 3 to 5 months. So I'd say 4 to 5 months out from whatever your move-in date is that you desire is the best time to start the process of moving to Chicago and looking to buy a property. So again, this is something that people come to me all the time. They end up renting or whatever the situation is, and they're unhappy with their choice because they just didn't start soon enough. So it doesn't hurt to just reach out, talk about your real estate goals, what you're ultimately trying to do, whether you're moving to Chicago in 2 weeks or 6 years. Even if it's 6 years, I would love to talk to you today, get you connected, understand your situation so that when the time is right and as we get closer, we have a bulletproof strategy together to make sure that you have a great experience with your transition here to Chicago. So there you have it. Those are my 5 most important things that you should know about Chicago before you move here. If this video has been helpful, please do me a favor and like the video. Comment down below any additional questions you have, and be sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can catch all of our future videos. I appreciate you hanging to the end, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Peace.